and thanks so much to Melanie Diaz and Ryan Coogler for coming here to talk about their tremendous film, which I think if you see Fruitvale Station and you aren't moved by it, you kind of don't have a heart. Sorry to start off with that, to separate people who don't have hearts from who have hearts in the audience, but it's just kind of a fact of the movie. It's also a movie that really gratifyingly for anyone who's seen it is doing amazingly, really well. If you look at this just in terms of box office, but also critically, it's really gotten a great response. So what I thought we would do here is just kind of go from the genesis of it and how it was made and put together and how it all came together. There's just a lot to talk about, obviously, as well, because of the events that it's based on. Ryan, could you talk about how you decided to do it and just how you got it put together?
First off, thank you guys so much for coming. It feels really early in the morning to me because I just got here from the Bay Area, and it's like it's like 7 in the morning. But thank you guys for waking up and coming to talk with us. How the project came together, how I was inspired for it was actually from the actual event itself. What happened at Oscar took place, New Year's Eve, and early morning New Year's Day of 2009, and I'm actually from the Bay Area. It happened in Oakland, where I was born and raised, and I was on Christmas break at the time from film school in Los Angeles, and I was working as a security guard at a huge party that they have in Frisco, downtown that night, and I remember, towards the closing of the night, I got a text message from one of my friends, and then a call from another one of my friends who were catching Bart that night, and they told me that somebody had been shot at the Fruitvale Station, and they didn't know who it was and who had gotten shot. And the Bay Area is a pretty crazy place, man. Unfortunately, things happen often. But by the time I got back home that morning, it was on the news that the guy that had been shot was a 22-year-old African American male, and the person that shot him was a police officer. It was a transit cop. And then later on, over the next few days, the news came out that the guy passed away. And the craziest thing that happened was the footage started to come out. It started to come out on the internet, and it started to come out in news reports. And I remember seeing the footage for the first time because all of these passengers had recorded, on their video cameras and on their cell phones. And the first time I saw the footage, I just kind of felt, it was one of those things you see and it kind of makes you feel sick in an empty way. And then that emptiness fills up with a wide range of emotions. For me, it was emotions of sadness and anger and frustration and helplessness and confusion as to how that could happen. But the biggest thing was that when I looked at that footage, the guy looked just like me. I couldn't really get over the fact that he was the same age as me. He wore the same kind of clothes as me. That the digital cameras were at that time the images were pixelated, so you couldn't really make out his facial structure. You know what I mean? And all you could see is his clothes and what his friends were wearing, and it felt like those were my friends, and I had been in that place before, so I kind of personalized it that way. I couldn't help but to do that, and a lot of people did. People immediately started to protest and riot and rallies and different types of demonstrations. People on the internet, kind of pick sides, and it came during a time where it was almost kind of like a gut punch in the Bay Area. Like in the Bay Area, we kind of think of ourselves as being extremely liberal and kind of being really progressive. One of the better places in the country, for those things in terms of diversity and how cultures relate to each other. And during that time, we were celebrating the 2008 presidential election. It was like Barack Obama had just won. So it kind of felt like everybody in the community was going like this, only to get punched in the gut, So people responded in really aggressive ways, and they jumped on different sides. And in that split, what happened to Oscar became very politicized. And in that, people on one side were saying, this guy was the worst person in the world. He was a felon. He had just got out of prison. He was a drug dealer. He got what he deserved. His lifestyle courted that. And the only tragedy is the tragedy for the cop. And on the other side, people wanted to, completely whitewash Oscar. He was a political activist. You know what I mean? He was this perfect guy who had never done anything wrong and got put off the train for no reason and executed. And I thought that in that split was the biggest tragedy of all, because nobody was talking about who this person was and who he was to his loved ones, and how this 22-year-old human being who had pluses and minuses to his life didn't make it home. So in being a filmmaker, I thought about maybe I could do something through my art to pinpoint that. You know what I mean? To look at the humanity of this person.
So did you start writing early on after that then? Or?
No, I didn't. What I did do was I kind of started to talk about it a little bit, and I had a friend who I went to school with. He was in law school. I was in the film school. His name was Ephraim Walker. He was a little older than I was, and he was also from Oakland. So we had become friends during the time of the election, during the time of the presidential election and the campaigns and those things. We had hung out quite a bit while we were in LA and became close. And I remember as soon as we got back from Christmas break, when that had happened, we sat down and we were talking one day, and he said, "Man, isn't that messed up what happened with Oscar Grant?" And I told him, I said, one day I'd like to make a film about that. And he was like, "Oh yeah, well, how would you do it?" And I kind of explained to him how I was thinking about it, how I thought I'd be interested to kind of follow him on that day. I hadn't written anything yet, but we ended up talking that day. We never really said much about it. And ironically enough, he ended up graduating from law school and moving back home to the Bay Area to be with his family. And I got a call from him maybe 6 or 7 months after he graduated, and he was saying, "Hey, do you still want to make that movie about Oscar Grant?" And I was saying, "Of course. As soon as I get done with school, that's what I want to do." And he said, "Well, I'm actually working for the attorney that's responsible for his family in the civil case." So he said, and they actually needed some help at the time, because they had all of this video footage that they were preparing to go to court with, and they couldn't afford to get a video analyst yet. So they wanted me to kind of help put some of it together. He knew I knew how to edit from being a filmmaker and things like that. So he said, "If you do this for us, if you can slow some of this stuff down, freeze frame here, freeze frame there, I would have no problem introducing you to the attorney for the family." So that's kind of how it first got started.
Well, to see it, it's kind of fascinating. It seems like, not only personal connection to the events, being a native, of the area, but you also, in the legal side of it, you were actually, you saw, the stuff involved in the case with the attorney. So you had really rich material to draw on there. If we can sort of go forward from there, when did you kind of were able to pull things together in terms of pitching the idea and kind of developing funding for it and that sort of thing?
Yeah, it all happened. It was kind of crazy. It all happened at the same time. When Ephraim called me, I was getting towards finishing up my degree in film school, and at that same time, Forrest Whitaker's production company, which was also there in LA, was looking for young filmmakers to mentor, and my name came up through a recommendation from a professor at USC, and I got a call during my second to last semester, and it was like, "Hey, do you want to go meet with Forrest Whitaker's production company?" And I was like, "Of course." like every film student. How many film students are in here? People that went to film school, so you guys know how that is, man. You crazy hungry and Mel went to film school and stuff, but being there, I was like, of course, I love to meet with one of my heroes' production company, and I was really nervous. I went in to meet with the head of his company, who was Nina Yang, and she was, at that time, Forrest was working on a show called Criminal Minds. She was saying that we're really interested in TV, as a production company, we're looking for those types of projects. Do you have anything that you've written for that? And I said, "Oh yeah, I got, of course." So I brought in some things that I had written, and she ended up liking those, and then eventually, I got a call and said, "I'd love for you to sit down and meet with Forrest when his schedule can allow for it." And I was like, "Oh great," and I thought it'll never happen. And then one week I got the call, and she was like, "Hey, come in and meet with Forrest tomorrow." So then, and I remember like it was yesterday. It was in between two classes. I had an afternoon class and I had an evening class. So I didn't know what to wear.
It's a full day.
Yeah, I came to school my afternoon class. I had a tie on, and everybody was like, "Man, like, cool, why you got on a tie?" And I didn't want to say anything, you know. So then I drove to their production company's office was on the Disney lot at the time. So I like drove like crazy, and it was crazy hot. I had this tie, I was sweating, you know, and and I went in to sit down. And then Forrest walks in, he's wearing jeans and like a t-shirt. And he's really, you know, he's one of those people who's really humble, really laid back. He's almost unnervingly nice, you know. And you start talking to him, and he's crazy brilliant, you know. So Mel can attest.
So had he already read? He must have read a treatment with it or nothing.
Nah, he hadn't read anything for the project. What happened at that time was he was meeting with me to see if I had any projects that I wanted to do. So Nina beforehand told me, you know, he wants to come in, you know, tell him about anything you're working on, you know, in terms of film wise. So I had a few things that I talked to him about, and then I told him about the project that would become Fruitvale, and I explained to him that was the closest thing to my heart. That was what I wanted to do immediately, and he really responded to it. And then he basically said, you know, I want to help you make this project. He basically like said they'll get behind it right there in the room.
And roundabout when was that meeting?
You said when?
Yeah, around when? Yeah. Just trying to think of the timeline.
Yeah, I graduated in spring of 2011. So it was in the spring of 2011. It was probably like April 2011.
So what was kind of the next step after that?
So that night I went home and I thought that maybe Forrest was one of these kind of people that changed their minds immediately, you know. So I was like, I gotta start working on this so that he doesn't, you know. So I called Ephraim up again, and then I said, hey man, I need you to send me everything that you can legally send me regarding the case. I need to know everything that he did that day. So he sent me a bunch of stuff because the criminal trial was public. So he sent me like a lot of testimonies and different things that were said in court, and then some of the evidence that they could share with me publicly. And then from there, I stayed up all night and I wrote like a 40-scene outline for the you know, for what would become the script.
And at that stage, I mean, I don't know how many in the audience have been able to see the movie, but it has an amazing you know, structure to it. It all takes place in the day leading up to, and I guess surrounding the events. I was wondering, at this stage, I mean, you mentioned that was early, how you were already thinking about it in those terms, like a day. So when you're writing the 40 scenes, those were already 24 hours?
Yes, it was already 24 hours. For some reason, I had the gut feeling that was how I would make the film, like very, very, very close to when it happened. I think it came from a lot of my favorite films are structured that way. It came from kind of the irony of this guy being killed on New Year's, you know, early mornings of New Year's Day. And when I started to research it, it became even more apparent that it made sense to have that type of structure.
And in terms of working on the screenplay, did you work on it with? I thought I read that you worked on it with Sundance Screenwriters a lot, but that was part of it, and yeah.
Yeah. So what happened was after I graduated from film school, it was a few months after. I finished up that outline, showed it to Forrest, and he was like, yeah, go start writing it. And then I graduated from film school, moved back to the Bay Area, and I started working like my regular job. Like I work at Juvenile Hall in Frisco. So I was, you know, working there, and when I would get off, I would start to write the script. And during the time I was writing the script, I got an email from Elise McKinney, who's one of the directors of the feature film program at Sundance Institute. She asked if I had anything I was working on at the time. So I told her, you know, I have this new script, you know, I'm really excited about. And she said, you know, when you get finished, you know, send it in. So I did, you know, and I had some meetings with the feature film program with Michelle Sauter, with Elise and Ann Lai, and you know, by the grace of God, I was accepted into the 2012 January Screenwriters Program, and I got to workshop the script there with 7 advisors who you know, worked in the industry for a long time.
And I feel bad talking over you all this time, Melanie. So So, I mean, I don't know if this is a big jump, if we could just talk about the kind of casting process and when you got involved.
You want me to talk?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So in writing the script, I kind of knew that I wanted Michael B. Jordan for the role of Oscar. For the other roles, I was a little more up in the air about who we would go for, and it was really interesting about how we came to Melanie. My agent Craig Castell, he's actually a New York based guy. When he read the script, he was like, "Man, you should really think about Melanie Diaz." And I was like, "Yeah, Melanie Diaz." You know what I mean? So I went and rewatched a bunch of her work, and at the same time, the Sundance Institute, they started talking about Melanie quite a bit. They were like, "Man, Melanie Diaz." And at the same time, Forrest and the production company were giving me pressure. They were like, "Hey, we got to start auditioning to find Sophinas." So we started looking for Sophinas in Los Angeles, and it was kind of rough on them because I had Melanie, in my head from watching her stuff. So I was looking at them and I was like, "Man, I really want to, really want to meet, and talk with Melanie." So eventually Craig made the connection. Spoke with Melanie's manager, and we talked over the phone for the first time. I guess Melanie could take it from there.
Yeah, and then we Skyped, and we just had similar ideas about the material and Sophina. And I felt like when I got the script, I was like, oh my god, I know this girl. And that's really rare when that happens, especially like as a woman of color and as an actress. You read these characters and they're not very well developed, and you're kind of like one-sided and stereotypical. And so I was just really excited to like get this script because I obviously have to be part of it.
And had you heard about the event? I mean, I guess that maybe I should just recap. Was everyone familiar with the events that the movies are based on? Or? Yes, Jen. Okay. And also just the names of Melanie plays Sophina, who is Oscar Grant's girlfriend. So just I always forget names of characters. So. But yeah, and had you heard about the events that are chronicled in the movie when they happened or afterwards, or?
No, I read it and I was like, is this narrative? Like, did this really happen? And then like I went on YouTube and I watched the clip, and it's like one of those things where again, I still can't believe that there is a person being murdered and it's on YouTube.
Yeah, well, that's the incredible thing about the movie, that it starts out with that clip, and you think someone must have made this up. Did this Industrial Light and Magic made this up or something?
There's just like so much disbelief, and for me, anger is too, because I can't believe that people function like that, all the time. It's just like, oh my gosh, like we need to change. But then I was kind of more interested with like Sophina, because I think she's a victim too. For the family is like she's left behind to kind of raise her daughter in their family. So I kind of wanted to really play a person who's like dealing with that kind of pain and that kind of drama.
And could you both talk about, moving ahead to the shooting of the movie, the process? Did you have like rehearsals or and that sort of thing, and developing the I mean, obviously they're not so much characters because they're based on people, but definitely it's not a documentary.
No, we were fortunate again in a few ways. One of the introductions that the Sundance Institute made was to a woman named Michelle Turner Sayeo, who worked for the San Francisco Film Society, and they had a program called Off the Page, where for independent feature films they'll bring talent to San Francisco, and we could workshop scenes with the director, and for us it was really valuable because both Melanie and Michael they're from New York area. Melanie's from here, and Mike's from Newark. So one thing I really wanted to do was to get all of those Bay Area ticks, and how they talk, and with the characters being based on real people, to maybe get them to meet some of them. So huge advantage that we had when they did that program, because we were able to take Melanie and Michael to meet the real Sophina and meet the real Tatiana, spend time in some of the areas where the characters spend time, which was extremely helpful. And it was great for Mike and Melanie to get together and spend time, because they really built a tremendously powerful chemistry.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for that program, because I
sorry, you're supposed to have this kind of chemistry, but it's, you know, you need that time. Like so much of that being built is just spending time and, you know, like learning inside jokes and cooking together. We like cooked together, we like drank together. It was like the best thing ever. So I'm really grateful to Off the Page for that.
And Mike and Mel were just really, really. I mean, especially Mel. Mel's been acting for a while, you know, and very professional, very experienced. But also, you know, I grew up as an athlete. You know what I mean? So you have players that are in sports. You have players that are good in practice, and you have players who are good all the time, and you have players who kind of step it up when it's game time. You know what I mean? So Mel was like that. Like when we rehearse, I'll be like, man, this is awesome. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I wish I had the camera right here. But then on the day, it's like it blows up and goes to a whole goes to a whole another level. And it was really exciting seeing her and Mike, you know, work together like that. And especially with it being a movie when we were kind of running gun the whole time. You talking about the production?
Yeah. What do you mean? You had to did you have to steal scenes you were filming sometimes? Or
I mean, sometimes we only had oh man, like 2 takes or like 3 takes or like someone's going down. I had to be like crying and like, oh man, I can't believe like sometimes we like got everything.
Yeah, we had, you know, we made the film for we made the film for around $1 million. And we had these, a lot of the stuff takes place in domestic environments, but everything that took place outside of the house was in institutional environments that were very expensive and limiting in terms of time constraints. So I'm talking about like the BART station scenes. We shot in San Quentin. You know, we shot in the grocery store, the hospital. You know, like so for the hospital, for instance, which has some pretty involved scenes for Melanie and Octavia. You know, we only had one night in the hospital where it happened. So it was like we have to get scenes in the waiting room, scenes in the surgery, scenes, you know, unfortunately in the morgue. You know, we're kind of running around, and these scenes are you know, these scenes are scenes that you wish you had a whole day, you know, for your actors. You know, and for Melanie, we shot, you know, the scene when Oscar's brought out of the train station, and she's been outside, and isn't really knowing what's going on. It was a very complex scene. She was sick, you know. She was trying to hide it from me. She had been trying to hide it from me for the last couple of days before we shot that scene. But that day, she was kind of like, you know, she was pretty worn down, and I'll never forget. We only had a very small amount of time to get the scenes that we needed. And after every take, Mel would kind of go off to the side and kind of just kind of collect ourselves.
Dying.
Yeah, and then when it was time to go, you know what I mean? She'll be like square one, all this like a big ball of energy right there in the moment. Yeah.
But you know, with stuff like that was supposed to be shot in the beginning of the shoot, right? Like originally, and then thank God it got pushed to the end. So I had all this time to kind of fall in love with Mike, you know, 10 times more, and you know, get to know Octavia and kind of like fall in love with the Bay. And so the last 30 minutes of the movie, I was terrified for like the whole entire shoot. Like I'd be like, oh man, that day's coming up. And so like I knew, so it was kind of like this like pent up energy. And I remember like I emailed Ryan, I'm like, Ryan, I'm really scared, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And he like wrote me this really sweet email. So it's like, yeah, we didn't have a lot of time, you know, I think we were like a unit and we all kind of knew that we all had to get to a certain place in a short amount of time, so.
Yeah. This would be a perfect time, I think, to show one of the clips, if that's possible. I'm not sure exactly which one's going to be shown, but.
There's been an incident on the train. The moving are on their way.
So yeah, that's the scene, obviously, that leads to then the shooting. We just wanted to start off with something light, just to dip our toe in the water there. But yeah, so that's one of the scenes. You had only maybe a day to shoot that, or less than a day, or
That scene right there.
yeah.
Yeah, we had about 9 hours.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Hours. Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, all the sequences in the train are just so amazing because you really get this feel that, I mean, this is throughout the movie, you get the feel of what it's like to be in a train when it's New Year's Eve, and that's something that's almost impossible to capture in a movie. I just feel like the movie is full of amazing moments like that. I keep using the word amazing, but that's because it fits. Eventually we're going to be going to questions from the audience, but I just want to fast forward a bit to actually showing the film at Sundance, and then afterwards, its release and getting it released. So talk about that.
Yeah, showing the film at Sundance was really, really intense. That's the best word I could use to describe it. Because we shot the film. What is it? September? It's September right now. We had
August 1st or something.
we had finished the film in August of 2012. So we were like cutting and mixing like crazy up until the point that we had to screen at Sundance, and it was a very important screening for me because I had gone through the labs, so I kind of felt like you were showing it to your family a little bit, and the biggest thing was that it would be the first time the Oscars family would see the film. They hadn't seen anything, they hadn't read anything. They trusted us, fully, and they all came to that first screening at Sundance. So I was really nervous, for both reasons, and in my mind, I was, at Sundance, that'll be the last time that anybody saw it. I tend to be pretty pessimistic. Mel always hate when I say stuff like that. But I was like, at least it'll play 7 times. People get to see it.
Say it.
Yeah.
You're already apologizing.
Stop it.
Yeah. But it played, and people said incredibly kind things about the film, and the Oscars family said incredibly kind things about Michael and Melanie and Octavia's performances and everyone else that was involved. And it felt amazing. It was an intensely positive film.
Actually, if I could just jump in a bit about this bit of casting of Octavia Spencer and Michael B. Jordan. How did they get involved?
It's funny stories for them as well. I had written the script with Mike in mind because I knew how important casting that role. I knew the film would kind of live or die by the audience's relationship to this character. So I had written it with him in mind. Once I came through the labs and got a script that I was ready to show, we called, and I wanted to just make sure that he and I could get along. That was the only thing I needed to see. So we sat down and we got some coffee or something. I made up my mind about him within the first 10 seconds of meeting him. So then I got nervous on the other side. I'm like, man, I hope he likes me. And then it seemed to be cool with me. And I was like, oh, man, I hope he likes the script. And he ended up liking the script and signing on. And we had Mike, and then shortly after we got Melanie. Melanie said she would like to be involved. And then we needed somebody to play his mom. And my agent again, Craig Castile, he was like, hey, who are you thinking about the mom? And I'm like, I'm not really sure. We need somebody who's really strong. And he was like, well, what about Octavia Spencer? And you gotta think this is like March. We're talking. She had just won an Academy Award. So I thought he was joking. Like, man, crazy. What I mean? There's no way she gonna come, win an Oscar and then come do this little movie for no money in Oakland, And he was like, nah, she's a really cool person. It's a good chance. You got a shot. She was rep the same agency. So I was like, well, what the hell? We gave her the script. I never expected her to read it, And then I got a call back from Nina saying Octavia's in. I remember telling Mel, I think Mel screamed, right? Mel was pretty excited. Yeah. And then I got nervous again, and I'm like, man, wait. What does this mean? You know? I'm like, she was shooting a film called Snowpiercer, and she was gonna be coming in like a few days after she wrapped that, and she was coming in like a couple days before it was time to shoot. So I was like, wait, so it's my, it's my first time making a feature film, you know what I mean? And this lady has worked on, countless projects. Is so reputable, you know. She's gonna come in and she's not gonna want to hear anything I have to say. You know what I mean? She's gonna want to get in and go home. Like I'm like, man, this is a big mistake, you know. And and the first day I met her, we talked over the phone. I was like, man, she's pretty. Octavia's like razor sharp, really funny, and really cool. I could get a little bit of that from over the phone. But then I met her when it was a couple days before it was time to start working, and then like all of my fears just like went in the complete opposite direction. She's so youthful and positive and family oriented. She kind of was the glue that brought everything together. She even came on as a producer, during the film. So
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, like she gave up her pay or something, right? Like that, yeah.
Yeah.
She's, I mean, I know like we all work together, but she's honestly like one of the nicest, goodest people. Goodest? You know what I
Invent
mean?
new words to describe her.
Yeah. She's just so great and she's so funny. I really like her.
She's crazy smart and youthful. Like when I met her, it's like Octavia got like the soul of like a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it just comes through immediately. But at the same time, she's very very protective and very wise. But like just her energy, man, was nuts. She was like a battery that got hooked up to the project.
So like she'll do a take and like Mike and I would be like, okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to hear about the family, atmosphere, because that's another key thing about the movie, that you had this amazing feeling of Oscar Grant's, immediate family and friends, and how he's connected at all times. I thought that's a really moving part of the movie. Again, another thing that movies don't really always capture is that real intimate feel.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's. I see eager questions. So let's go to this right here in the audience, sir. Let's just say.
Yeah. Okay. I have a lot of voice. What are the current and future plans for U.S. distribution, or do you have an international sales agent attached? Just curious.
I don't want to speak like out of ignorance, because I'm not super well versed in how this stuff works. But from what I understand, the Weinstein Company acquired all of our rights to the film, like worldwide rights.
And that's the answer to the second question.
Yeah, and then but what they did was they sold it in different territories to other distributors, they're handling the U.S. distribution.
And what are the current today? What's happening with the film in U.S. and what's the future plans for U.S. distribution?
Okay, the film was released theatrically in July, and it expanded it expanded pretty much nationwide, and now it's still in theaters in a few locations. I believe it's still here in New York as well.
Yeah. And just to repeat the question in case people didn't hear, ordinarily if you have a question, you can go to the microphones. I didn't realize that. But he was asking about the international distribution and if there's a sales agent, and then about the present state of the release, which again I can repeat, is just going gangbusters. I think it's made, not to be vulgar, but it's made 15 million, I think, by now. It just as of last week. Is that right? Did I just make that up? So. Okay, so now I guess we'll go to a question here, please.
Hi, I'm from the Bay Area, and I just want to say it was a gift to the whole Bay Area to have that film be as fabulous as it was. What I'm interested in is, what was it like, you haven't really talked about this, what was it like for you to actually be on the set directing these unbelievable actors and actresses? And I just want to put in a comment about how fabulous Tatiana was. I mean, you know, I loved all the adults, but I think maybe I loved her the best. So
very sweet.
talk a little bit about what it was like for you and then how you found her.
Okay, how we found Ariana, her name is Ariana Neal. She's from Atlanta. How we found her was we were looking for Tatiana's, and she came up actually one of the first people to come up because she had worked with Forrest before on a film called Vipaka, which was like a horror film that his production company had done down in Louisiana, and so I saw her stuff in that, and then she auditioned you know, via Skype, you know, and that's how we ended up getting Ariana. She was really, you know, really fantastic addition to the cast. And how it was for me directing these guys, it didn't feel like it was real, you know, to be honest. Like it was going really, really fast, and that probably helped. The fact that I felt like I was dreaming every day. You know, I felt like I was gonna wake up and be at my computer, you know, somewhere in Richmond or Oakland. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, that was a nice dream, you know. But to be honest, man, that's the best thing about these actors, you know, Ariana included, was that they not only were they really, really phenomenally talented, not only did they have, you know, crazy work ethics, but they're all really good people, you know, like you know, and that's rare, you know. It's rare to find those three qualities in somebody, regardless of the field. You know, it could be working at the New York Stock Exchange, it could be being an athlete. You know, it's rare to find somebody who's really, really talented, has a really great work ethic, and is also an incredibly warm person. You know, and so I lucked out. I hit the jackpot with our actors and being on that set.
Well, congratulations for a fabulous film.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to the mic
Thank
over
you.
there.
You've talked about how little time and how few days you've had, and we've talked about how you've managed to capture the subway and the feeling and the family. I'm hoping you can tell us how you found your DP.
Well, our film was shot by a really talented director of photography named Rachel Morrison. She's from Boston area, but she went to school here in New York at NYU. And I found Rachel through it was really through the Sundance Institute, through the feature film program. They're very, very helpful. It doesn't just end at the labs. You know, they're helping your film constantly. They're still helping us now. And one of the things they do is when you're looking for crew, they give recommendations of filmmakers that have worked on previous films that came through the labs. And when I was looking for a DP, they gave me this huge list of DPs that had worked on films for small budgets that were somewhat ambitious and people who they thought, you know, I would connect with. It was a long list, and Rachel was on it, and I Skyped with Rachel. You know, she was in, I think she was in LA when we Skyped, and we really connected. I mean, I remember our meeting was supposed to be for like 30 minutes, but we talked for like 2.5 hours. She had done some films. She had done a film called The Sound of My Voice before. That was shot on not to turn to a camera geek, but that was shot on a Canon 7D, which is a great camera, but it's not something that you often see on theatrical releases, you know. And this movie got picked up by Fox Searchlight, so I was able to go to the theater and watch it, and I was really taken aback by how beautiful the images were, you know, of the circumstances that she shot that film on. And then when I met her, I knew she was right for us, and she was just incredible, man, incredible asset to have.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those scenes are like pretty intense, and to have somebody that you don't feel is there is incredible. Sometimes DPs can kind of be in your face, and you're like, oh. But she's just like this little like ninja.
Yeah, like Rachel come up here and like we shot with an Area 416, and she could get under this chair with the camera. You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't see her, and she's filming all of this stuff. You know, and at the same time she can like you know, lead a crew. You know what I mean? Of experience. You know what I mean? Keep, you know, grips and electricians. You know, and they'll jump off the bridge with her. You know what I mean? So she's somebody who, if you guys haven't heard about, you guys will, very soon. She's gonna have an incredible career. Rachel Morrison. Spell.
That's what IMDb is for. Yeah, I mean, the camera work is totally phenomenal. I mean, it's part of what helps, you know, there's the performances, and the camera work also helps you just get into their headspace. Everyone's, you know, you're right there. Just to alternate, I guess we'll go over here.
Once you had the film completed, but before anybody saw it, what were your initial expectations and goals with the project?
What my goals were for the project, you know, it never changed. What I wanted to do was to basically give audiences an opportunity to spend time with this character. For me, Oscar represented a lot of people, you know, and in my community growing up, you know what I mean, I saw a lot of people like Oscar, you know, lose their lives to gun violence, lose their lives to incarceration, you know. And I thought that so often I would see these things happening, and it seemed like the whole world would kind of go on. You know what I mean? It was like this thing that was just part of reality that people didn't really acknowledge, that people didn't really address. And I kind of realized that's kind of how we work as human beings. You know what I mean? Like, we could get a news flash that, you know, a huge tragedy has happened, you know, halfway across the world. You know, a tsunami where 300 people have been killed, and we see that and we're like, oh man, that's messed up. But we go on with our day. But if it's somebody who's close to you, if it's like your grandmother or like a close friend, you know, and you get news that they're sick or hurt, or that they, God forbid, have lost their lives, it's devastating. You know what I mean? So I was very curious about why that is, about why we have to be close to something for us to understand why it's a tragedy. You know. So what I wanted to do with this film was to bring audiences close to this character, you know what I mean, and to let them spend time with this character in an intimate way, and to maybe give people who've never spent time with somebody like Oscar some insight, you know, into what it's like. So that was one of my goals, and then the other one of my goals was just to raise awareness about this particular case. You know, I thought that whether people liked the film or they hated it, you know, at least when they watch it, that they'll know that this happened, and you know, they go home, maybe they'll Google it, and they'll go home, maybe they'll think about it, they'll tell someone about it, you know, because unfortunately not a lot of people, you know, outside of the Bay Area, and then so those two goals never changed, and then the third goal, once I started working with this incredible crew, was I wanted to, you know, showcase what they could do, you know, as best as I could possibly.
I think we're sort of running to the end of our time, so we're going to start wrapping up. Do we have time for one more question, or? Yeah. Oh, okay. Sure.
Hi, my name's Lenore Norgard. I'm from Oakland. I live right up the street from Grand Lake Theater, and I was walking home from that theater the night that the Zimmerman verdict came down. So this film had opened there the night before, as you know. So much respect and thanks for that. Still absorbing it all. I wanted to ask, it's really switching gears, but I wanted to ask, coming with your first feature, such an incredible success and reception, what are you doing now? Are you working on a new project? Are you able to move on from it, or are you still kind of in it? And is it mostly, you know, are you writing? Are you getting ready to direct something new?
That's a great question. Thanks for your kind words. I'm writing actually a few things right now, and it's my first time writing a lot of things at once. So I'm working on a movie that's based on, it's basically set in the world of high school football where I'm from. So it's set in that world about a football player in the Bay Area. I'm working on a boxing movie, writing one about that. And then I'm also working on something in the TV space. You know, so I'm writing those three things at the same time. I'm not sure what's gonna pan out with any of those. None of them are officially being paid for by anybody, you know, just yet. But you know, we'll see how it goes. All of them. The great thing about them is all of them have a personal, you know, very personal value to me. You know, I mean, they're all about things that have affected me personally, that I'm very emotional about, that I'm excited to do. But it's definitely not easy to write, because my mind is still very much dealing with the work of getting this film out. So I'm learning, I'm learning as I go.
Thank you.
So I guess we don't have any more time for questions. No? Funding. Okay, so well, I guess we could have a question about funding.
Funding. Our film was done through significant Productions, which was Forrest Production Company, and they raised about between 50 and 60% of what the film would need from an independent investor who was from China. From China, from mainland China. Nina Yang Bon Jovi, who runs Forrest Production Company, she's Chinese American. So that and we as we needed more funds, we were fortunate that the Sundance Institute would give us grants, and the San Francisco Film Society really helped us out. It gave us very, very generous grants, during the production process and the post-production process.
All right, and I'm afraid that's all the time we have for this. But big hand of applause.